So this is my latest fiddle. Her name is Ursa, and she's number 235. Let me take this tuner off. So I missed out on numbers 232, 233, 234 because they were gone before I was able to take a video of them. So they're out there, and sometimes they go quicker than I'm ready to let them go. So, but anyway, this is I just finished her yesterday, and this is a new model that I decided to use. It's a closer to a Guaneri model. You can see by the F holes, excuse me, the sound holes. They're more slender and longer than the other sound holes I was using. They weren't really Stradivarius, but they were kind of a hybrid, and as these are too. But this is with the center bouts. They're a slightly different shape. They're not quite as long. They're more curvy, and the arching pattern of the top and back are different. It's more towards a Guaneri kind of a model. It's a 15 millimeter high top arch and relatively non-curvy. And the back arching is about the same, maybe a little over 15, and it's more of a curvy shape, which is closer to what a Guaneri model may be. And actually, in my monitor screen, it looks more brown amber, but this violin is actually more reddish. It's strange how it shows up on the computer monitor. In life, it's more of a golden reddish, brownish red, dark red kind of thing. I'm real happy with it. I think it's a good fiddle just right out of the box, or out of the batting cage here, whatever. It wasn't in a box, but I used a top that had a little more wider grain pattern. I don't know if you can pick it up on the screen or not. Yeah. And I think that puts me more in a direction of the tone that I'm looking for, which is a nice deep dark tone as opposed to a more of a strident punchy tone. And of course it's what you do with the wood that really makes it, but to give you a head start, the selection of wood's important. And so it's a wider grain Engelmann spruce, and the back, sides, back, and neck are Western big leaf curly maple. And I use what I call a skew cut. Now the top is quarter sawn, but the back I do not use a quarter sawn back. I don't use slab cut. I use skew, which is halfway between quarter sawn and slab cut. I think a slab cut would give me more of a flexible resonance, but it is a little unsafe to use because it's not as stable. It can crack over time. And quarter sawn, which is traditionally used, tends to give you more of a punchy tone, which I don't want. And I want volume, but I want depth and warmth. So skew cut is a happy medium between. It has the strength and stability of quarter sawn, but not the floppiness of a slab cut. So as a result, you can see the grain lines are not straight up and down. These lateral figures, that's not the grain, that's the flame recurring end grain in the wood. The grain is what goes longitudinally, and so you can see it's half quarter, part quarter, part slab, but mostly skew, 45-degree angle of a cross section. I use a one-piece lower bout and a one-piece back, which I do to eliminate as many joints as possible in my fiddle. and I made my scroll a little differently than usual too. This is an experimental fiddle, and well, they all are, but this one I decided to use I made a new mold, and for the body, for the corpus, the body, and again according to the Guaneri pattern. But I also tried to change the slight shape of it's still a traditional scroll, but and then went with some different templates to carve my scroll to kind of match visually the lines of the violin and the sound holes, and it's hard to describe it artistically. Just I want everything to kind of look like it fits together, so it's hard to describe how I changed the scroll. It just looks different if you compare it to the other fiddles I've made. Slight difference. More of a subconscious thing than something you could say, oh yeah, this shape is different. But anyway, the important thing is how it sounds and how it plays. And so far I'm very happy with this fiddle. It's easy to play. It's very balanced. There's no wolf notes in it. It's fairly loud, but it's not over resonant. And it's not shrill. The high E is really nice and sweet. And the low end is good. Low end is nice and strong, but it's not overpowering. And so it's kind of like a dream fiddle so far, I think. And hopefully it won't, if anything, maybe it'll get even better, but hopefully not deteriorate in its tonal quality. They usually don't. They usually have a certain way of sounding in the first few days of life, and then they either always stay the same or get a little bit better. And some don't sound that good right from the beginning, where I go ahead and redo them, take the top off, and sometimes replace the top or the bass bar thing. So anyway, this one wants to be a fiddle. Some of them fight me all the way, and they want to continue being a tree. So her name is Ursa. She's number 235, and I'll try to play her for you a little bit. I'm not that good of a player anymore. Age is taking its toll on my joints, but give you an idea how she sounds. This is one of those that I feel like once in a while I'll make it fiddle, and I feel like I want to keep it because I like it so much. And I like all of them, but some of them I really like, and this is one of them. And so I'm feeling that way about this one, but maybe the next one I make might even be the same or better, and then I'll offer it to somebody who may want it. So that's how that goes. Fiddle makers are crazy like me, especially if you're a player and a maker at the same time. Keep hitting the desk with my bow. So the brand new strings, prim strings, and they're not rosined up yet, they're not broken in yet. But it gives me a pretty good idea of how the fiddle's going to sound. Once the strings break in and stretch and get retuned and everything, it kind of sounds more settled. Hopefully. So one thing, again, I really like how this fiddle turned out, is that when I play the E string, it sounds to the same as the other strings. I mean, it's a higher pitch, of course, but as far as the quality of the sound, the roundness, the tone, the volume, the texture, you can't tell that you're changing strings. With a lot of fiddles, it seems that, you know, everything sounds fine until when you play some notes on the E string, it sounds like a different instrument. And this one has that balance that I really like. I'm not afraid to go on the E string and just bow it, because it doesn't change. So it's like a clean palette, like an artist would have a canvas board, not a palette, but the canvas, and you can paint whatever you want on it. And that's how a fiddle. That's what I like in a fiddle. A fiddle that lets you do what you want to play and doesn't have little quirkiness that kind of guide, where you have to stay away from certain notes or certain strings, or like that you don't want to play them. So anyway, that's not a good description, but as fiddle players, you know what I mean. So anyway, this is Ursa number 235. It's a new mold, new design, subtle design change, but different than what I've done before. And it was, I was a little nervous about it, thinking, well, my other fiddles always sounded pretty good, and what am I doing? I'm changing it, and this one also sounds really good. And I think that it's a different voicing, but it's still a voicing that I like. It's woody and nice dark texture without being too dark. And I might stick with this design from now on. More of a Guaneri pattern, hybrid. And I still make my little leaf and flower carvings in the back on the corners. I still like to do that. I kind of decided to stop carving the bat wing that I usually at the end of the fingerboard, make a little bat wing design, but I decided to stop doing that as an experiment to not take away as much mass from the end of the fingerboard, just to see what happens. And it may have nothing to do with the changing the tone, or it might. It's hard to do any kind of a valid experimental comparison, because you can't make two exactly the same two fiddles. Well, anyway, I wanted to show you my new creation, and look forward to showing you the next one someday. Thanks for watching. Bye.